Hey everyone, welcome in. Wanted to put together a quick video on how to dock in Star Citizen. So as you can see right now we're above Microtech, right outside Port Tressler. We are going to go ahead and hail ATC
Please proceed to assigned landing bay.
to give us a docking port. And you can see responded pretty quickly. The white circle there in the middle of the screen, that's our docking port. Uh, it also automatically brings up the docking HUD. So as we start heading in, walk you through a little bit of what we're seeing right now. So on the docking head, you got three red dots. So each one of those indicate your ship's angular position or angular orientation relative to the docking port itself. So that would be your pitch, yaw, and roll axes. And so as we get a little bit closer, once we get closer, we'll slow down and start to we'll tweak those angles, make sure that we're properly aligned with the docking port. The other piece of information, so I talked about the angular deviations from the docking port. The other piece is I guess it'd be the translational direction and how far we actually are away from the docking port in three-dimensional space. So our X, Y, and Z direction. So as you can see, the three numbers there on the screen. So the X parameters telling us how far we are either to the port or starboard side of the docking port relative to our ship. The Z direction is forward and aft, and then the Y direction is up and down. Now, one thing I will point out is I'm not quite sure if this is a bug or a feature, but I have noticed that if you are forward of the docking port, so where Z would be, in this case, Z would actually be less than zero, it will just show a flat zero. It will not show a value at all. The more I've been thinking about that, the more I believe that may actually be intended. Guessing that, in a real world situation, being able to actually see the docking board as you approach it is a much less risky proposition for approaching the docking port. So right now we're about 600 meters aft of the docking port, 350 meters to the right. It's our left, and then about 70, 77, 78 meters above the docking port. So we'll go ahead and stop right here, and we'll correct our angular orientation of our ship to make sure that we're aligned with the docking port. So right now I'm going along the yaw axis. You can see the red dot that corresponds to the yaw position is moving in, and then once we get to within plus or minus a degree and a half, you'll see both the dot and the number on the right side of the HUD there will turn green. Next up, we'll go ahead and adjust our pitch axis, and I went the wrong direction, so we'll pitch up, get that red dot right into the middle there. It'll turn green. You can see the number at the bottom. We'll try to get that as close to zero as possible. When you're this far out, you don't have to be perfect because as you get a little bit closer, those angles are going to float out again a little bit, so you'll have to tweak it a little bit once you get closer. And then lastly, we have the roll axis that shows there in the bottom right of the HUD. So we'll go ahead and roll in. And then same thing, plus or minus a degree and a half gets us into the green. And you can see the yaw floated out a little bit, but tweak that back in, and like I said, we'll do some fine tuning as we get closer. So one thing I'll point out too is you've got the red square there in the bottom left of the docking HUD. That's really showing where the docking port is relative to your ship. So as I mentioned before, it's ahead of us, to our left, and down below us. So as we get closer, that square is going to get bigger, and those red sides will start to turn green. So we'll go ahead and start heading in. We'll thrust to the port side and forward. And what I will usually do is I will get the Z axis, or Z direction, I should say, the Z direction and the Y direction. I will get those down to zero before I start thrusting left into the docking port itself. Alright, so we'll go ahead and move forward, adjusting our Z and Y axis. You can see left side of the screen there, the white circle shows the docking port coming down, coming closer, and then as I mentioned, you'll start to see that red, the red square there will also start to get a little bit bigger. And so one other thing to note too is as you start getting in closer, I'll usually do this when I get to within, around 100 meters, is I'll drop the speed limiter down a little bit. Makes it a little bit easier to fine tune your position. So you can see our up down position. We're looking pretty good. About 1/4 of a meter now. Still about 80 meters after the docking port, so we'll continue to move in the forward direction, and then we'll also strafe to the left a little bit as we're still about 110 meters out. You can also hear the the docking indicator, the tone there. It continues to beep with a little bit higher frequency as you get closer in. So we'll go ahead and get our Z axis here lined up, our Z direction. Get that as close to 0 as possible. Go ahead and knock our speed limiter down a little bit more. We can get some more fine tuning of. And you can see there, you see there that the Z-axis or the Z direction went just straight zeros and doesn't even register anymore, and that is really an indication that I've gone forward of the docking port. So we'll go ahead and strafe backwards a little bit, so you can see now that that's turned green again, showing that I'm within that range of tolerance. And so now the way we got our Y-axis, close to 0 again, get those back into the green, there we go. And now we'll strafe left, right into the docking port. And so once you get to within probably about 1 to 3 meters of the docking port, as long as you have your Y and Z directions tuned close to 0 there, once our X distance gets to around 1 to 3 meters, you'll see the auto dock will automatically kick in and pull the ship in and engage the docking clamps. I'll go ahead and kick that speed limiter up just a little bit so that we're not taking so much time to get closer. You can see that our alignment square there is slowly getting bigger as we get closer to the docking port. So right now we're about 15 meters out, about 10 meters out. We'll go ahead and slow it back down a little bit. See our Y-axis is on our Y-axis kind of drifted out a little bit, so we'll tweak that back down. Z-axis we're out a little bit as well, so I'm going to strafe back just a little bit. So we're back in the green there. There we go. And now we can continue our left strafe. Coming up on 5 meters now. And there you go. You see the message on the screen there that the station is going ahead engaging the auto dock. Docking clamps are engaging. You can see our alignment square will be
Landing complete. Have a pleasant stay.
And docking is complete. So with that, we will go ahead and shut down the ship.
Systems off.
I'll jump out of the seat here and walk through the docking collar and out onto the docking arm of the station. Let you guys see that. it's a little bit of work, a little bit of take a little bit of time to actually dock, but I think that the whole goal of Stardust Citizen simulation realism, I think they've done a great job with the docking mechanism. That's only going to get better as they continue to tweak it. Look down there and see the rest of the station. Look down on Microtech and see the whole sea out the window there. Just amazing visuals here. Can't wait to see what all this looks like as we start to get the larger capital ships, the whole D, the whole E, and really start to utilize some of this docking process a little bit more. So really appreciate you guys watching. Would love to get your feedback in the comments below, and we will see you next time.